From one line and a few trains, to a lot of lines and a large fleet, Go has evolved from going across the shores of Lake Ontario to an extensive network of train lines carrying more than 70 million passengers a year. Go Transit is also influential for their bi-level, as you can see on screen, and they're also the fourth oldest out of all the commuter railroads you'll find in North America. But how'd they get to this? I'll literally be explaining that in 2 seconds. Go Transit was founded on May 23rd, 1967, and was used for pretty much one purpose at the time, to shuttle people from the suburbs to downtown. In this case, shuttle people from the suburbs to downtown Toronto so they could work their 9 to 5 jobs. Go Transit was quite a small commuter railroad as you see today, operating on the shore of Lake Ontario, which is present-day Lakeshore West and present-day Lakeshore East. Both are now separate lines. They started off with a few locomotives and cars, known as the GP40TC, Amtrak Guide 365 made an excellent video on them, the SD40-2W, the F40PH, the GP40M-2, and the FP7AM. This is an F unit, of course, but with head and power, or HEP, to power the cars, which are electrically powered. Why did they use these types of locomotives? Don't they look like they're for freight trains? Well, that is literally the case. In case this commuter railroad failed, they could easily sell off their equipment to freight railroads without having to modify much. Their primary passenger car was the Go Transit Hawker Siddeley RTC 85 SPD. This car is quite unique to Go Transit and has only been seen on Go Transit. Progressing into the 70s, ridership went up, but Go Transit needed a new car. The UTDC had an option for this, the bi-level. This bi-level was created by the UDTC and was then later adapted by Hawker Siddeley Canada, the Canadian Car and Foundry, and finally Bombardier, and now Alstom. But let's just say Bombardier since it's more catchy. The bi-level pretty much helped Go Transit increase their ridership through the years. And the bi-level also became the most common and most used bi-level in North America. Not much happened in the late 70s, 80s, and possibly even 90s. All that really happened was the expansion of the Go network, Bombardier taking over being the maintainer of the Go fleet, which was previously CN, and Go Transit getting F59PHs. In 2007 to 2008, Go Transit once again did a nice purchase, MP40s, or in this case the MP40PH. They really wanted this locomotive since it was able to pull 12 cars, as they do now. They pull like 10 to 12 cars, and typically 6 for off-peak. Or is that just me because I live on the Kitchener line? But anyway, that's pretty much how it goes. Also at this time, oh god, rail fans are gonna hate this, Metrolinx was made, well, exactly a year ago, in 2006. They didn't really do much, but they're pretty much the parent company for Go Transit and a few other agencies. Let's just say this is kind of where the downfall of Go Transit goes. Well, the downfall in terms of rail fans, what they think, not the actual downfall as in like economic. At this time, nothing really bad was there. We still had K5LAs, we still had F59PHs, and old cabs. For example, this video from the 4K train channel. Then, unfortunately, in 2012, Transport Canada mandated probably the worst horn you'll ever hear, the Nathan K5CA-LS. Should I even call it Nathan? Because I guarantee they did not create it. But anyways, here's a few samples of them in the normal and emergency. not done yet. In 2014, Go Transit and Metrolinx unveiled a new cab car, the CEM cab car, or in this case, the Crash Energy Management cab car, and CEM coaches, but no one cares about those, they seem to fit in anyway, but the one that really doesn't is the cab cars. These streamlined, European-looking, and referred to as ugly-looking cab cars are pretty much for safety. The only reason that's why they're made, pretty much. One thing that rail fans pretty much don't like about it is that, well, obviously it's ugly. Another thing is, they can't be put in mid-set, because they don't have another side to come through like the older cabs do. So they're always going to be leading. And of course, the LEDs flashing in your face, and that it's a European look, really just doesn't get the eyes of Go Transit rail fans anymore. I mean, I rail fan Go Transit because, you know, I have the time to, but people start rail fanning other stuff now. Because Go Transit doesn't look very flashy anymore, it doesn't seem fun. In 2016, Go Transit sent one of their units, number 647, back to their manufacturers so it could be rebuilt as a Tier 4 locomotive. This now becoming an MP54AC, one of the other Tier 4 locomotives other than the Charger and F125. Unlike the older MP40s and other MPX locomotives, this is a genset having two smaller engines instead of one big engine. Both of them equaling 5,400 horsepower instead of 4,000 or less. Unfortunately, currently these locomotives are not listed on the locomotive list to purchase these, meaning they probably stopped production of the MPX series entirely, meaning Go Transit will have to find some new locomotives. In 2021, last year, Go Transit extended the Kitchener line to London via, or in this case just London, Ontario. Only one train per day in each direction goes that way. So it's not really an extension, it's more of a pilot project that they're doing. This pilot project is to see how many riders are going to and from those three new stations of Stratford, St. Mary's, and London. One thing rare about this pilot is that they're using not one, but two F59PHs for it, due to a bridge near St. Mary's that is not able to support the heavy MPX locomotives. Present day Go Transit. Go Transit right now has a few F59PHs, a bunch of MP40s of any type, a load of Bombardier bi-levels, 979 to be exact, and that's pretty much all. There's nothing new about Go Transit. Now, the future of Go Transit is a bit debatable in terms of stuff like locomotives, electrification, and all that. Pretty much what their goal is for the future is electrification for faster trains, more trains, and of course, more trains for frequency. Here's Go Transit's electrification map for the future. As you can see, the Barrie Line, the Stouffville Line, East and West Lakeshore are gonna get some stuff. The Kitchener Line is only gonna get it up to Bramalea, which I debatably say that's a no. Really, not many people live near Bramalea Go. The central populace is more here where Mount Pleasant is and downtown Brampton, of course, and so they're kind of gonna be missing out. And you're probably wondering, why doesn't the rest of the line, like all the way up to Kitchener, get electrification? As you can see on screen, that's a freight train. At Bramalea Go, it intersects with, or in this case, it merges with the CN Halton subdivision, where freight trains from CN now come on this line. Unfortunately, double stacks come on this line, and that creates a little problem, catenary height. That's going to be a catenary problem and a half. And you might just say, just add a third track for electrification. That's pretty much what they did, except there's a bottleneck in downtown, where it only supports two tracks because there's not enough space for a third one due to the tight space. Thanks, Brampton. Guess we won't get electrification to Kitchener yet. Well, I've heard they're planning on adding a third track in downtown. I don't know how that's gonna work, but I guess it's gonna work some way or another. Either way, we're gonna have 3 tracks in Brampton eventually. Enough about the electrification. Let's talk about the locomotives. Specifically, the ones that they're gonna get in the meanwhile while everything's becoming electrified. There are, of course, 2 options on the table, and it's either the F125 from EMD or the SC44 from Siemens. Now, there are 2 ups and downs about these 2 locomotives, is that the F125, of course, isn't used a lot, and there has been a time where Metrolinx took out their F125s because of a mechanical problem. And I've also heard that the F125s are not quite reliable, but I guess they don't freeze in the winter. I'm not sure, but it seems what they're going with. And now, the Charger is quite literally the most widely used locomotive in America, but the Chargers have one thing: they can't survive the winter. But there's one that will probably prove that, right or wrong, and it's Vera recently got their locomotives, the SCV-42. That's quite a new name for their Charger, but this thing has been tested in a wind tunnel test or whatever it's called, and it underwent a freezing test to see if it could survive the cold, and I'm pretty sure it did if I watched the video. Did I watch the video? Yeah, I did. And yeah, they might pick the Charger. Not only is it more known, it's, I guess, suitable for the winter. I'm gonna take a guess that specific one that Via Rail uses, SCV-42, but once again, that's a theory because it didn't happen and it might not. Anyway, on to the electrified part of this. So, it's a debate between getting electric multiple units or just a single engine, but I prefer a single engine simply because they could still use the bi-levels, but just for electrification. And also saves money since you don't have to buy EMUs, which are pretty much more pricey than a single locomotive. I also kind of want to see ALP-45, simply because they're dual mode, and it's easier to just continue them on a line after the electrification stops. For instance, a train going to Kitchener. You can use the electrified part all the way up to Bramalea, simply switch to dual mode, and continue all the way to Kitchener, and back as well. Now, for the fully electrified lines like the Barrie line, maybe they could use just only electric locomotives, or they could just use dual mode since it's, easier to just hop off the electric grid and just, go on as a diesel locomotive. I know they probably don't want to be polluting by a certain year, but this is a good start for electrification. So, this is pretty much what I think of that. Currently, there isn't any intel for future locomotives, like getting a Charger or getting the aforementioned locomotives here. So, pretty much for the future, it's pretty much on what I think. So, I'm obviously probably not going to be correct entirely, so take this one with a pinch of salt. Well, thanks for watching this video. This is actually the first type of video that I've ever done, so might have stuttered a few, but hey, if you liked it, you liked it. I just talked about road transit's past, present, and future. So, if you like this content, give me something, and I might make something else with this. Or just, my voice. Anyways, see ya.